The list of names for the third round of the arena duels instantly caused a commotion on the drill ground. Some geniuses gave sympathetic glances at Jian Wushuang and Feng, while others were gloating about it. "We've had a bit of bad luck." Jian Wushuang and Feng looked at each other and then sighed with complicated expressions. Most of the geniuses had already used their strength in the Firmament Territory feast by this point. Qianqiu Wuhan and Gong Chao were considered the most powerful. Both of them were far superior to the other geniuses. If they had attended the previous Firmament Territory feasts, either of them would have ranked number 1. When drawing lots just now, everyone had been praying that they would not encounter those two geniuses. And the results were Gong Chao versus Jian Wushuang, Qianqiu Wuhan versus Feng. Jian Wushuang and Feng would have to fight against the two strongest geniuses. They were the last survivors among the thousands of warriors from the ancient world in this feast, but they would have to deal with the most powerful opponents in the third round of the arena duels. It was not their day. If they had not drawn the lots themselves, they would have suspected that the middle-aged man had intended to set them up. The experts in the Skyward Pavilion were in a heated discussion. Haha! Bad luck for the two boys from the ancient world. They already had the chance to hit the top 10 and win the prizes, but now they have to fight Gong Chao and Qianqiu Wuhan, the two strongest geniuses from the ancient world versus the most powerful ones from the eternal world. How interesting. The two boys look good, especially Jian Wushuang. He's able to hit the top 5. It's a pity that he has to deal with Gong Chao, who seems to be as strong as Qianqiu Wuhan but has been hiding his strength. That is to say, Gong Chao is actually stronger than Qianqiu Wuhan, so Jian Wushuang will have no opportunity to win this time. What a pity! All the experts sighed because Jian Wushuang and Feng would lose their fights. The two boys were powerful indeed, but they were far inferior to Qianqiu Wuhan and Gong Chao in the experts' eyes. Even Xianyi held the same view. Qianqiu Wuhan and Gong Chao are talented. Although Feng has hidden some of his strength, he's still weaker than the two geniuses. As for Jian Wushuang, Xianyi thought while shooting the young boy a meaningful glance. He has hidden many skills. If he fought against Qianqiu Wuhan, he would still have a glimmer of hope to win the fight, but he's encountered Gong Chao. Xianyi shook his head. He had recognized Gong Chao's real strength just as the other experts had. Gong Chao was much more powerful than Qianqiu Wuhan. It's impossible to defeat Gong Chao. Now we'll see how far the boy can go. Xianyi thought with an indifferent expression on his face. On the battlefield, the first fight had already started. Zhonghua was fighting Qiuyu. Because these geniuses had entered the top 20, the disparity between their strength was very slight. Zhonghua and Qiuyu were evenly matched, so their fierce fight lasted a long time. The other geniuses were waiting for their turn by the drill ground. 15 minutes passed. Qiuyu finally won this fight with a little advantage. The second duel, Li Xiaoye versus Huan Chong. The fierce fights continued. Not long after, it was time for Feng to fight against Qianqiu Wuhan. "Good luck, Feng," said Jian Wushuang, shooting a quick glance at him. "Okay." Feng nodded, then slowly stepped forward. Many geniuses on the drill ground and experts in the Skyward Pavilion fixed their eyes on this fight. Naturally, Qianqiu Wuhan was in the spotlight. The moment the middle-aged man gave the order, the two duelers instantly grappled with each other. Boom! 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 As a deafening roar reverberated through the area, Feng did not hold back and his strength erupted. The brilliant streaks of saber shadows swept out, which attracted everyone's attention. His saber technique was extremely mighty, as if it were able to destroy the entire world. What a terrifying saber technique! He's too strong. He has a high comprehension of the destruction Tao. He's amazing. His strength shocked everyone. They finally realized that Feng had been hiding his strength. Top 5. He has top 5 battle strength. He is not weaker than Jian Wushuang. Two geniuses from the ancient world have top 5 battle strength? All the experts were quite shocked. Feng's strength was beyond their expectations, but he was still unable to match Qianqiu Wuhan. At this point, Qianqiu Wuhan gave a casual slap, which moved toward his opponent like a huge fire mountain. He continued his attacks, unleashing more overwhelming fire mountains. Feng tried his best to resist, splitting the fire mountains in half or repelling them, but the fire mountains surged at him without pause. Feng felt that it was becoming more and more strenuous for him to sustain, while Xianxia Wuhan was still attacking with a calm expression. Go to hell! Xianxia Wuhan finally found a chance to show his trump cards. Instantly, the entire surrounding area fell into an endless sea of fire with the arrival of several of his palms. Feng wielded his saber to parry them, but he only deflected 3 of them while 2 palms landed on his body. Xianxia Wuhan won. He lost. Seeing Feng being carried out of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang sighed while shaking his head. Feng had exerted his full strength. He was powerful indeed, especially using his saber technique. However, his comprehension of the Tao was inferior to Xianxia Wuhan's, so he was unable to turn the tables. Then it was time for Jian Wushuang to fight Gong Chao. Under the gazes of the geniuses on the drill ground and the experts in the skyward pavilion, Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao stepped onto the battlefield. Jian Wushuang had to be considered the best genius from the ancient world. Gong Chao was qualified to rank number 1 in the other geniuses' eyes, but the experts knew that he was actually much more powerful than Xianxia Wuhan and would be the strongest genius in this year's Firmament Territory Feast. Therefore, their duel received lots of attention. The battle between Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao will be exciting. Both of them are the best geniuses from their respective worlds. It's rare to see such a fight. Anyway, Gong Chao will be the winner. I only wonder how far Jian Wushuang will go. Right, Gong Chao is far superior to the other geniuses. Even Xianxia Wuhan is weaker than him. No one is his match in this year's feast. Although Jian Wushuang is good, he is unable to fight against Gong Chao. I don't think so. An elegant, middle-aged expert from a superior sect disagreed. Jian Wushuang has been hiding his strength and has various skills. In the second of the genius battles, he almost lost the fight against the puppet fighter, but he still held on for 10 minutes by using his sword principle. As for the arena duel with Chu Yang, all of us thought he would lose without a doubt, but in the end he defeated Chu Yang with ease. And during his fight with Ouyang Xian, we thought he would be defeated by the 13 sword moves of Lu Yun, but he used his world Dao to save the day. Every time, his performance has been beyond our expectations, so we have to change our view of him. Even I can't see through him. If the other geniuses went up against Gong Chao, I believe that Gong Chao would win. But now it's Jian Wushuang. I don't dare to draw a conclusion. Upon hearing this, many experts secretly nodded. The middle-aged expert was telling the truth. Jian Wushuang had surprised them 3 times, so he might create a miracle this time. Jian Wushuang is just a little guy from the ancient world. It's a miracle that he has been able to reach this level. He wants to defeat Gong Chao? Ridiculous, said the black-haired elder from Cloud Sea Asgard with disdain. He fixed his eyes on Gong Chao, as he believed that Gong Chao was the number 1 genius in this year's Firmament Territory Feast. Jian Wushuang? How was he comparable to Gong Chao? At this point, Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao stood face to face. Gong Chao. Jian Wushuang stared at his opponent as his battle intent rose, and he said, "You're more powerful than any of us in the feast, and I know that you haven't used your full strength yet. I really want to see how powerful you are. That depends on how strong you are. I won't use my full strength to attack someone who is weak." Gong Chao responded in a frosty tone. "Give it a try." Jian Wushuang stuck out his tongue to lick his lips. His battle intent had peaked while his eyes sparkled with eagerness. It had been a long time since he had encountered a super genius like Gong Chao. Therefore, he was looking forward to it. "Your strength is greater than my previous opponents, so I'll take it seriously," Gong Chao said as he gave him an icy stare. A stone cudgel appeared in his hands. It looked worn out, but a terrifying aura radiated out from it. Gong Chao had used it to defeat his opponents during the previous rounds of genius battles. No one had been able to withstand 3 strikes from him. "Show your move," Jian Wushuang replied in a confident tone. His heart-killing sword appeared in his hand. It seemed to be perceiving the overwhelming battle intent from his body, and it started to shake violently. "Okay." Gong Chao suddenly stepped forward. Bang! The tough ground immediately cracked. Many geniuses were unable to break the ground even if they used all of their strength. But Gong Chao did it easily. His terrifying aura reached its peak. Then, Gong Chao waved his stone cudgel toward his opponent, who was still standing far away from him. The moment the cudgel lashed out, it began to expand at an amazing speed and became a sky-supporting pillar that connected heaven and earth. Endless thunderbolts curled around the pillar with the power of destroying the whole world. Holding his stone cudgel, Gong Chao now became the ruler of the thunderbolts. How powerful! This strike. Rank 2. Rank 2 secret skill. Many geniuses on the drill ground and experts in the Skyward Pavilion were stupefied. Seeing the terrifying power, everyone realized that this attack belonged to the Rank 2 secret skill. It was the first time that a Rank 2 secret skill had appeared during this year's Firmament Territory Feast. At this point, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. And the next moment, his world energy suddenly emanated out as the power of the heart-killing sword. Boom! A strike charged forward, as if it would split the whole area. This powerful strike drew the attention of all the spectators. This strike! Everyone widened their eyes because they discovered that Jian Wushuang was displaying a Rank 2 secret skill. It was a competition between Rank 2 secret skills. Peerless staff technique versus terrifying swordsmanship. The two strikes crashed head-on under everyone's gaze. Boom! The sound of the initial confrontation was loud enough to shake the entire area. The whole battlefield was a surging storm of power. All the spectators were shocked. After all, there was a wide gap between Rank 1 secret skills and Rank 2 secret skills. Many geniuses were able to invent superior Rank 1 secret skills. Each of the geniuses who made it through to the third round of the arena duels had created their own superior Rank 1 secret skills, but the power of their skills was different and no one had displayed a Rank 2 secret skill because it was much harder to create Rank 2 secret skills. A genius who wanted to create a Rank 2 secret skill should have a high understanding of the Dao, especially the weapon Dao. For example, a genius might be able to invent a Rank 2 secret skill if he was adept at spear techniques and had done an in-depth study of the spear principle. Few geniuses in this feast could meet these requirements. However, Gong Chao was talented and regarded as the strongest genius in this year's feast. Even the three magnates thought highly of him, so it was not a surprise that he was able to invent a Rank 2 secret skill. But Jian Wushuang, he came from the ancient world. A genius from the ancient world was actually displaying a Rank 2 secret skill to fight against Gong Chao. But the endless energy storm filled the entire battlefield. After a while, two figures retreated from the energy storm while trying to regain their balance. Jian Wushuang gripped his sword with soaring battle intents in his eyes, while Gong Chao narrowed his eyes with a more solemn expression. They were at their peak. Obviously, they fought to a draw in the initial confrontation. Good. Do it again. Gong Chao threw an icy stare at his opponent. Then he charged forward with his stone cudgel. Come on! Jian Wushuang growled. His sword soul started shaking violently in his sea of consciousness, producing a mighty sword soul power. As he moved, his body seemed to change into a sharp sword. Swoosh! A terrifying sword essence pervaded the entire battlefield. Humph! Gong Chao snorted. He launched continuous attacks with his stone cudgel. Each of the strikes radiated a mighty power that was strong enough to smash an ordinary skyscraping realm expert into pieces. These two duelers continued to grapple with each other as the fight reached the white-hot stage. The sounds from their confrontations struck terror into the spectators' hearts. Too powerful. They are too strong. What a terrifying strength. Both of them can easily kill me. Gong Chao had a high understanding of the Thunderbolt Dao, far superior to us. Even Xianxia Wuhan can't hold a candle to him in the enlightenment of the Dao. Jian Wushuang's sword principle is amazing. He might be the best among us in the enlightenment of sword principle. Many geniuses could not help but shout their praises. The experts in the Skyward Pavilion were astonished by Jian Wushuang's performance. Jian Wushuang's sword principle is great. It's unsurprising that Gong Chao had such a strength, but Jian Wushuang. We only knew that he was proficient in sword principle, so we didn't expect him to be so powerful. None of the other geniuses are able to match him in sword principle. His sword soul power is too strong. Even Gong Chao's staff soul is weaker than his. He surprised us once again. The knowledgeable experts marveled at Jian Wushuang's strength. Jian Wushuang was inferior to his opponent in the enlightenment of the Tao, but he narrowed the strength gap by using his sword principle. Sword principle, Xianxia thought as he stared at Jian Wushuang with a flicker of excitement in his eyes. He also wondered. His sword principle cultivation is amazing. It's unbelievable that a skyscraping realm expert has such a powerful sword soul power. But is this his limit? All the experts in Skyward Pavilion felt how powerful his sword soul was and knew this sword soul power was far superior to the other geniuses. Nevertheless, Xianxia suspected that Jian Wushuang had not reached his limit. On the battlefield, the fierce battle still continued. I've already displayed my strongest move and used 70% of my sword soul power, but I'm unable to gain the upper hand? Jian Wushuang wore a solemn expression as his opponent continued to pressure him. His strongest move was the rank 2 secret skill he had just performed, Sword Heart World. He had invented it after the 1-month meditation in Enlightenment Mountain. It was a mighty move. Furthermore, he had the strongest sword soul and 70% of his sword soul power was far superior to the other geniuses. Even Gong Chao's staff soul was weaker than his. However, he was still neck and neck with his opponent. Gong Chao's Thunderbolt Dao was powerful indeed. Boom! Gong Chao brandished his stone cudgel, causing endless thunderbolts to surge out, as if a thunderbolt dragon was charging toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang stabbed forward with his heart-killing sword and unleashed an overwhelming sword soul power which split the head of the dragon. Jian Wushuang, Gong Chao spoke. You're really strong. It seems that I have to use some of my trump cards if I want to defeat you. Trump cards. Jian Wushuang's face fell. However, all the spectators were tingling with excitement. Gong Chao still had trump cards left? Try this move. Gong Chao stepped forward as he violently attacked his opponent with the stone cudgel. It moved slowly. Jian Wushuang frowned and subconsciously waved his sword to resist it. But when his sword crashed into the cudgel, he immediately felt a strange power which seemed gentle, but was actually powerful enough to suppress his sword. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Gong Chao attacked again. The strike seemingly lashed out with mighty strength, but it became gentle in a head-on collision. Bang! 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 Gong Chao struck blows in succession. However, his staff technique was variable. Sometimes it became powerful, but sometimes it was as gentle as water. It was so exquisite that Jian Wushuang could not find a chance to fight back. This marvelous skill confused him. He was at a distinct disadvantage now. Upon seeing this, the experts in the Skyward Pavilion were astonished. That is Yin-Yang Dao. Right, it's the Yin-Yang Dao. Strong and weak, quick and slow. It really is the Yin-Yang Dao. Looking at this staff technique, he has a high understanding of the Yin-Yang Dao. Although his Yin-Yang Dao is inferior to his Thunderbolt Dao, he has comprehended its first occult. Gong Chao has actually comprehended the Yin-Yang Dao. It's the hardest one among the various Daos. Most importantly, the combination of Yin and Yang requires excellent coordination. He is able to display his staff technique while giving full play to his Thunderbolt Dao, which means his battle strength has reached a new level. There were hundreds of types of Daos. Yet, the Yin-Yang Dao was the most difficult and exquisite one among them. Gong Chao switched smoothly between the Yin-Yang Dao and the Thunderbolt Dao as he launched continuous attacks, which placed even more pressure on his opponent. Amazing! He is adept at 2 kinds of Dao. Jian Wushuang frowned, with a flicker of killing intent in his eyes. You've comprehended 2 separate Daos. But so have I. You're good at switching between the 2 Daos. On this point, I can't match you, but what about 2 of me? Jian Wushuang snarled in his heart. The next moment his body flashed. Swoosh! A figure appeared by his side. This figure wore a black robe and held a long sword while radiating a mighty killing intent. He also looked the same as Jian Wushuang. What? Seeing another Jian Wushuang, Gong Chao was stunned. It also startled the other geniuses. Two Jian Wushuangs? One becomes two? What's that? All the geniuses were stupefied. One of the Jian Wushuangs emanated killing intent while the other's aura seemed to encompass the whole world. They were his world body and slaughter body. His world body, which was full of world energy, held the heart-killing sword. His slaughter body held the triple kill sword while releasing an overwhelming killing intent. Kill! Kill! The world body and slaughter body shouted at the exact same time as they charged toward their opponent. World prison! Jian Wushuang's world body waved his hand and a huge world prison appeared. Cataclysm skill! The slaughter body wielded the triple kill sword while converging his soaring killing intent into a single point. If the two bodies merged into one, he was able to use both of the daos but unable to switch as smoothly as Gong Chao. However, now they were two independent bodies so they could fully release the power of the two daos. Emperor Xiao told me not to show my flawless foundation and strongest sword soul, but he didn't mention my two original bodies, Jian Wushuang thought. The moment his two bodies attacked, the experts in the Skyward Pavilion stood up in shock. Doppelganger! Doppelganger secret skill! Wow! The boy from the ancient world has actually mastered the doppelganger secret skill. A skyscraping realm boy is displaying the doppelganger secret skill. Unbelievable! The experts were shocked. The three experts representing the three magnates were unable to believe what they were witnessing. The doppelganger secret skill? Even I haven't mastered it. The black-haired elder from Cloud Sea Asgard sighed. What a precious skill. It's fabulous. Even in our eternal world. Aside from the three magnates and the ancient sect, the other 8 top sects in the firmament territory don't possess the doppelganger secret skill, but a boy from the ancient world has obtained it. The arrogant middle-aged man from the Immortal dynasty was also surprised. The doppelganger secret skill was valuable enough to arouse the attention of the three magnates as well as the other top sections. It had a high cultivation requirement and a lot of limits. Even the Eternal Realm experts like the three experts from the three magnates were unable to create a doppelganger. There was only one expert here who had a doppelganger, and that was Xianxia. They did not know that Jian Wushuang had not practiced the doppelganger secret skill as they thought. He had been practicing a heaven-defying cultivation method which was greater than the doppelganger secret skill, the heavenly creation skill. This skill provided him with a flawless foundation as well as the two original bodies. His two bodies were totally different from doppelgangers. Speaking of the doppelganger secret skill, if the original body died, the doppelganger would cease to exist, but Jian Wushuang's original bodies were different. If an original body was killed, the other original body would be able to remake it. The two bodies had their own thoughts, so they were able to cultivate, kill, or scramble for treasures separately. It was more powerful than the doppelganger secret skill. Jian Wushuang is superior to the ordinary geniuses from the ancient world. He's not only good at sword principle, but he has also mastered the doppelganger secret skill. If I'm right, he must have received some amazing opportunities which a supreme expert from our eternal world left. The evil girl from the boundless demon sect said, "That's possible." The other experts in the Skyward Pavilion nodded in agreement. Experts from the eternal world preferred to leave their legacy in the other plane worlds. Without superb opportunities, it was impossible for Jian Wushuang, a skyscraping realm expert, to have such a high level of strength and even master the doppelganger secret skill while in the ancient world, even though he was talented. It's a pity that I already promised Xianxia that I wouldn't pursue the 6 geniuses from the ancient world, or else, I'd like to invite the boy to be our inner disciple. The evil girl sighed. What a pity! The arrogant middle-aged man from the Immortal dynasty nodded inwardly. However, the black-haired elder from Cloud Sea Asgard still disagreed. The boy is talented and might have gained a wonderful opportunity, but he still comes from the ancient world where people don't know how to cultivate their foundation properly. As we all know, the foundation can affect one's potential. His foundation is weak, so he won't have great achievements. Xianxia ignored the other experts' discussion and fixed his eyes on Jian Wushuang. Doppelganger secret skill? Nice! Xianxia thought with a flicker of delight in his eyes. Boy! You've given me even more surprises. The horrible booms echoed through the area. Gong Chao had to fight with Jian Wushuang's two bodies. Although he had a high understanding of the Thunderbolt Dao and had mastered the Yin-Yang Dao, it was slowly exhausting him. A hint of killing intent flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. The sword soul suddenly shook in his sea of consciousness. Then, his sword soul power increased to 80%. 80% of my sword soul power. I can't use more or my strongest sword soul will be exposed, Jian Wushuang thought. As the two original bodies exerted 80% of his sword soul power, the power of his swordsmanship greatly improved. The boy, his sword soul power has increased again? How many trump cards has he been hiding? A skyscraping realm expert can possess such a mighty sword soul power? The experts in the Skyward Pavilion all marveled at his strength. As I expected, Xianxia was not surprised, but he still had some doubts. Has he reached his limit? The drill ground went dead silent as the other geniuses all watched them in shock. Jian Wushuang obviously became stronger just now. Streaks of sword shadows crazily suppressed Gong Chao, who was consistently losing ground. Gong Chao has been completely suppressed? Gong Chao is at a disadvantage. Even though he used his Yin-Yang Dao? Jian Wushuang is indeed powerful. His strength shook everyone. Even Xianxia Wuhan stared at the two duelers with a frown. These two are really powerful, but I'll still rank first in this year's feast. Xianxia Wuhan thought with a flicker of madness in his eyes. A scruffy green-clothed girl watched the fight with a solemn expression. I can't match either of them. They're too strong. Boom! A loud sound was heard from the battlefield before Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao separated. The two original bodies stood in the void with a soaring aura while Gong Chao looked embarrassed. Jian Wushuang. Gong Chao held his stone cudgel more tightly as he stared at Jian Wushuang with a gush of killing intent in his eyes. I didn't expect someone would push me to such an extent in this feast. Especially a genius from the ancient world. You are powerful. If I encountered you 1 month ago, I would have been defeated by you, but over the last month, I've made great progress in Enlightenment Mountain, so you will lose this fight. Gong Chao's confident voice reverberated through the drill ground. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes slightly. All eyes were on Gong Chao. Everyone wondered whether Gong Chao still had other trump cards at this critical moment. Gong Chao charged forward again. Shua! A streak of thunderbolt flashed across the sky and Gong Chao appeared in front of the slaughter body in the blink of an eye. So fast! Jian Wushuang was surprised. Although Gong Chao's offensive speed had been terrifying, Jian Wushuang had been able to handle it. But now his speed doubled, which chilled Jian Wushuang's blood. Gong Chao brandished his stone cudgel. The strike with terrifying thunderbolt power moved at an unbelievable speed, which placed unprecedented pressure on the slaughter body. Jian Wushuang paled. He was unable to parry it and could barely resist it with his triple-kill sword. As a result, pong! The mighty power knocked away the triple-kill sword and forced the slaughter body to retreat. Whoosh! The wind-breaking sound was heard before the world body suddenly appeared behind Gong Chao. While the slaughter body was under the attack, the world body took the chance to sneakily attack Gong Chao's head with the longsword. However, Gong Chao brandished his long cudgel without looking at the world body. Pong! Jian Wushuang was greatly taken back. This strength! Jian Wushuang's world body sensed the terrifying power through the heart-killing sword and was knocked back. Gong Chao charged forward like a thunderbolt as his stone cudgel, with its mighty power, released thunderbolt-like staff shadows to suppress his opponent. Bang! 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 Jian Wushuang waved his heart-killing sword to resist the terrifying attacks, but after deflecting a dozen staff shadows, the world body was knocked down, causing a huge pit to form in the ground. Thwack! The broken stones were suddenly stirred up as the world body rose into the air. Meanwhile, the slaughter body was picking up the triple-kill sword. The two original bodies stood side by side while staring at Gong Chao. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Gong Chao's strikes caused the triple-kill sword to be knocked away and the world body to fall to the ground. His terrifying battle strength shook everyone. The second occult. He has comprehended the second occult of the Thunderbolt Dao. Unbelievable! The experts in Skyward Pavilion were stupefied. They all felt the terrifying power that Gong Chao released. It was obviously the second occult of the Thunderbolt Dao. It was incredible. As for the Dao comprehension, it would be harder and harder to make breakthroughs. The geniuses who entered the top 20 had only comprehended the first occult. Most of them just started to touch the second occult. Even Jian Wushuang had only comprehended a small part of the second occult of the world Dao. Although Qianxia Wuhan had a high understanding of the second occult, he still had a long way to go. However, Gong Chao had a full understanding of the second occult of the Thunderbolt Dao. Monster! What a monster! A skyscraping realm genius that has a full understanding of the second occult of the Thunderbolt Dao. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. I throw in the towel. Jian Wushuang spoke as his two original bodies merged into one. His words caused an uproar for a while. Gong Chao had already shown battle strength of the second occult, so it was unbelievable that Jian Wushuang would be able to push him farther than this. How could he fight against Gong Chao? Hearing that, the spectators shook their heads inwardly. I have a better understanding of the world Dao after 1 month of meditation at Enlightenment Mountain, but I haven't mastered the second occult as he did. Jian Wushuang was astonished at his opponent's strength. He knew he still had a chance to win if he fought to the death. I might be able to defeat him if I use my strongest sword soul and the strength from my flawless foundation. Jian Wushuang was deep in thought. He had only exerted 80% of his sword soul power. He had pretended that he was at the ordinary skyscraping realm. If he used the superb strength that his flawless foundation provided, he would be stronger than he was now. However, Jian Wushuang did not intend to do so. After all, Emperor Shao had asked him not to expose his strongest sword soul and flawless foundation. And he had proven himself, so there was no need to fight to the finish. The battles between the strongest geniuses ended. Gong Chao won. In many experts' eyes, the result was unsurprising, but it was not easy. The two duelers' strength was out of their expectations, far superior to the geniuses in the previous Firmament Territory feasts. Gong Chao had comprehended the Yin-Yang Dao and the second occult of the Thunderbolt Dao. It was rare to see such a monster in the eternal world. Jian Wushuang had also shown his terrifying strength. After all, he came from the ancient world, a plain world. No one paid him any mind when the feast began, but now his strength shamed the other geniuses. He had comprehended the world Dao and slaughter Dao, and his terrifying sword soul power might be the strongest among the other geniuses. He had also invented a rank 2 secret skill, as had Gong Chao. Furthermore, he had mastered the doppelganger secret skill. Only Gong Chao was able to defeat him in this feast. As for Qianxia Wuhan, he ranked 3rd. Qianxia Wuhan had displayed his incredible strength during the fight with Feng, but he was still far inferior to Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao. As the fighting went on, Jian Wushuang moved to the outside of the battlefield to stand with Feng, side by side, watching the fighting quietly. It's a pity that you encountered Gong Chao so early, otherwise you would have had a chance to make it into the top 2 among everyone, Feng said to Jian Wushuang flatly, while looking at him. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. It's also a pity that you encountered Qianxia Wuhan, or you would have made it into the top 5. Both of them had the bad luck of encountering someone who was more powerful than them. Whatever. Our business is done in the arena battle, Jian Wushuang said reluctantly. Their journey in that battle ended with them being ranked inside the top 20. As they were watching, the fight for the top 10 was over, and all the 10 winners could get 100,000 divine gems as a prize for their rankings. In no time, those people started fighting for the top 3. Half a day passed during these hot battles, and finally, the arena battle ended. The list of the top 3 geniuses came out, which was based on the participants' performances. Without question, Gong Chao was number 1. He was so powerful that Jian Wushuang was the only one who had been able to force him to try his hardest. The others all lost to him before he even had to show his real power. As for the number 2 expert, people had thought it should be Qianxia Wuhan. However, it turned out to be a slovenly girl who had attracted little attention during the previous rounds and unexpectedly defeated Qianxia Wuhan with a burst of her power in the last round. The girl was named Jing Xianxia. Xianxia Wuhan was ranked number 3. In fact, everyone present knew that if Jian Wushuang had not met Gong Chao during the battle, he could have taken Xianxia Wuhan's place in the rankings. The girl named Jing Xianzi has really got some power, Jian Wushuang murmured. He had witnessed the fight between her and Xianxia Wuhan and was astonished by her power. She is indeed mighty with a gift in the water drop Dao. However, you can absolutely overpower her if you battle her with your original body and doppelganger at the same time. Feng chimed in. Maybe. Jian Wushuang forced a smile. As soon as the arena battle was over, experts from every sect immediately started recruiting new disciples. The top 3 geniuses all received invitations from the 3 magnates, while the others within the top 10 were sought after by some other top sects. And as for Jian Wushuang and Feng, the outstanding 2 in the battle, they had not received an invitation from any sect, not even from a medium-sized one. It shouldn't be like this. Jian Wushuang frowned. Although he was from the ancient world, he believed that his performance in the battle was good enough to earn him an invitation from a top sect. As he was lost in confusion, he got a message from the token that Xian Yi had given him. Jian Wushuang, I'll have you be our inner disciple, so go to the ancient sect with me. The information was clear. Xian Yi would give him a place among their inner disciples. But aside from this, nothing else, such as the guidance of the Eternal Realm experts, was promised. To be an inner disciple of the ancient sect? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Feng and Huaying standing beside him received a message from Xian Yi as well, and they looked very happy. Jian Wushuang looked at them and asked, What are your results? I've been accepted as an inner disciple, Feng answered with joy. So have I. Huaying cried out excitedly. Obviously, Xian Yi had accepted all of them as inner disciples. And to them, this was as good of a chance as it was to be the inner disciples of the 3 magnates. And what about you 3? Jian Wushuang turned to Bing Shan, Xianing, and Wu Huang behind him. Those 3 had been kicked out during the first round of the arena battle, but they had chosen to wait in the drill ground since then. The 3 of them exchanged glances before Bing Shan replied, We only got invitations as outer disciples. That's not bad, Huaying said to comfort them. Yeah. Those 3 nodded with looks of satisfaction on their faces. The ancient sect was even greater than the 3 magnates in some way. Therefore, what they could gain from the sect as outer disciples would be no less than if they were inner disciples of other top sects. I can't wait to cultivate in the ancient sect. Wu Huang clenched his hands. Be patient. The Firmament Territory Feast isn't over and the 4th round of genius battles is yet to begin. Feng laughed at him. However, those words reminded Jian Wushuang of what the host had said, that there were 4 rounds of genius battles in total. At that moment, the 4th round was yet to begin. Normally, as all remarkable geniuses had been selected out during the first 3 rounds, there was no need to hold a 4th round, so the Firmament Territory Feast would come to an end at this point. This matter confused Jian Wushuang very much. What is exactly the purpose of the 4th round? All the geniuses who had survived the 3rd round were gathered on the drill ground, and they all shared the same feeling as Jian Wushuang. As if he had seen through those geniuses' confusion, the host looked around and explained to them. The 4th round of genius battles is the most important part of the Firmament Territory Feast, and everyone who has participated in the arena battle could participate in this round as well. The most important part? The geniuses were surprised. The next moment, the host's voice echoed again. As all of you know, the aim of the previous 3 rounds is to examine your power, but in fact, one's current power could not be a determinant of whether he is talented or not. Therefore, the purpose of the 4th round is to discover the talent and potential in you. And the results of this round will only be decided by time. The host's voice was loud and clear. By time. The geniuses were even more confused. As the host was explaining everything, his sonorous voice echoed throughout the place. What kind of person could be called a genius? Someone who can achieve in 1 year what it takes others 10 years. For example, it may take an ordinary man thousands of years to reach the eternal realm from the skyscraping realm, but a real genius can do that within just hundreds of years. Time can prove many things. Therefore, with all of you being in the skyscraping realm, The time that you've spent cultivating to reach that realm and how long you've been in it will be the best proof of your talent. This is how the fourth round works. Upon hearing this, the geniuses were finally able to understand the rule. It was true that one's talent and potential could be seen through his years of cultivation. Taking the ordinary warriors in the ancient world as an example, from the day they started cultivating, it might take one of them hundreds of years to reach the Saint Realm, while for someone else just dozens of years to achieve the same thing. Needless to say, the latter was clearly more gifted. Having said that, the rule of the fourth round was practicable indeed. I never thought that our cultivation time would be the measurement of the fourth round. Hua Ying frowned tightly and echoed in an undertone. I have to admit that it makes sense, but the point is that we're from ancient world. The less favorable conditions in our world decrees that it takes us more time to reach the skyscraping realm than those from the eternal world. Someone chimed in. Yes, you're right. It's unfair. Unfair indeed. Feng nodded in agreement. The 5 geniuses from the ancient world all complained about the rule, as they knew that they were doomed to lose this battle. Due to the poor cultivating conditions in their homeworld, they had all spent a rather long time in cultivation, especially Hua Ying. We have no chance to beat them if we compare our cultivation ages. By this time, they were sufficiently discontented. However, Jian Wushuang might have been the exception among them. He had an odd expression while thinking, the measurement will be cultivation time? Well, it hasn't been long since I started cultivating. In the Skyward Pavilion, the experts from the sects glanced at those geniuses from the ancient world with eyes full of pity. Those poor boys are going to be embarrassed. That's for sure. Being born with limited resources, in no way could they cultivate faster than those from the eternal world. Considering that it's so hard for them to break through to the skyscraping realm in the ancient world, all 6 of them must have cultivated for 1,000 years. The mighty Jian Wushuang among them might have cultivated even longer. He probably is 3,000 or 4,000 years old now. Those from the eternal world are far superior to them. I reckon that few of them have cultivated for over 800 years. Gong Chao, Jing Xianzi, Qianxia Wuhan, and Jian Wushuang. I dearly want to know how long they have cultivated. Especially Jian Wushuang. I'd love to see if he really is over the age of 4,000. But we all know that an ordinary skyscraping realm expert can't live for more than 4,000 years, so Jian Wushuang should be under that age. Even if he has taken some precious elixirs to prolong his life, he can't make it to more than 5,000 years old, all the same. Those experts were waiting to see Jian Wushuang and the other 5 lost face. On the drill ground, with a gesture from the host, a short elder turned up who had a special aura. This is Elder Chiu. The host introduced the elder to the geniuses. He has some unique methods to examine your cultivation age and the time you've been in the skyscraping realm. Now, go take your examination one by one when I read your name. After glancing around, the host read out the first name, Gu Ling. The man named Gu Ling immediately walked over to the elder. I need a drop of your blood, Elder Chiu said to him. Doing as ordered, Gu Ling gave the elder a drop of blood, which was then put into a special container. A moment later, the results came out. Your cultivation age is no more than 350 years, and you've been in the skyscraping realm for 200 years. Elder Chiu announced directly. 350 years? Not bad. The experts in Skyward Pavilion praised him. The host continued. The next one is... One by one, the geniuses went forward to take the test. The results showed that most of the geniuses from the eternal world had a short cultivation age, with a range of 300 to 500 years. A small number of them had an age of 600 years. But there were very few with a cultivation age over 800 years. After the previous 3 rounds, the weak had been eliminated and only the strong remained. 800 years were sufficient for a strong one to become a divine realm expert, which was impossible for the geniuses from the ancient world, however. Qianxia Wuhan. When Qianxia Wuhan's name was called, everyone looked at him. As one of those most outstanding geniuses, he had gotten much attention from others. In a minute or two, Elder Chiu announced his result. Your cultivation age is between 780 and 790 years, and you've been stuck in the skyscraping realm for over 600 years. Qianxia Wuhan's result was beyond the expectations of everyone in the Skyward Pavilion and those who had thought highly of him. 780 years in cultivation and 600 years in the skyscraping realm were rather long times compared with those of the geniuses in the eternal world. In view of this, Qianxia Wuhan's talent was not that satisfying despite his mighty power. Bastard! Qianxia Wuhan could not help cursing to himself. Actually, he could have broken into the divine realm several hundred years ago. However, in order to impress others with the feeling that his power was high above his realm, he had intentionally avoided breaking through. He had never thought that he would be swallowed up among many other geniuses. Bad luck had caught him in succession. First, he had been overpowered by Gong Chao and Jian Wushuang. Then Jing Xianxia out of nowhere had come to defeat him. And now, when he finally could have been ranked top 3, the 4th round frustrated him again. The test pushed him into the situation where he could not hide his secret anymore. I had thought he was a genius of extraordinary talent, but now I've learned it's just because he has cultivated much longer than the others. He doesn't deserve to be our inner disciple. Go tell him that we'll revoke our previous invitation, and to show our mercy, we can take him as an outer disciple. A black-haired elder from Cloud Sea Asgard ordered his men. The middle-aged man from the Immortal dynasty and the girl from the Boundless Demon sect gave out a similar order as well. Next up, Feng. When Feng's name was called, all the geniuses on the drill ground looked at him with interest. He was the first one from the ancient world to take the test. You've cultivated for over 1,900 years, and for about 1,800 of them, you've been in the skyscraping realm. Feng forced a bitter smile at the results, while the other geniuses could not help sighing. So far, the longest cultivation time for the Eternal World geniuses was 810 years, far shorter than 1,900 years. Xianxia, is he the trash that you thought so highly of? He is a good-for-nothing, said the elder from Cloud Sea Asgard coldly. I don't think so. Xianxia gave him an easy smile. We all know that the conditions in the ancient world are quite disadvantageous to those cultivators. So I think he's done well to have made it so far. Besides, you also heard that he's been in the skyscraping realm for the remaining 1,800 years, which means it has only taken him 100 years to reach that realm. He indeed has got some talent. Whatever, that's no excuse for his poor results. The elder did not change his mind. Xianxia shrugged with no desire to argue with him further. The test continued on. Hua Ying, Bingshan, Xianxia, and Wu Huang followed Feng in taking their turns. Among those 4, the latter 3 all had cultivated for more than 2,000 years, and Wu Huang had even cultivated longer than 2,800 years. As for Hua Ying, who had the longest among the rest of them, his cultivation life was an amazing 3,700 years. That number caused the other geniuses to cry out in surprise. Next is Gong Chao. The voice of the host quieted down the whole drill ground, as well as the skyward pavilion. Everyone held their breath to see Gong Chao's result. They all wanted to know how long this number 1 genius, the terrifying monster, had cultivated. If it turned out to be more than 800 years, his fame as the number 1 genius would be challenged. But if it were to be a much shorter time, such as 300 or 400 years, he would be able to protect his fame. Gong Chao. Jian Wushuang watched him closely. This person was the only one among everyone in the Firmament Territory feast that he took seriously. From the very beginning, he had been keeping an eye on him. Under everyone's gaze, Gong Chao went over to Elder Chiu and gave him a drop of his blood. In no time, the elder announced the result in an astonished voice. You've cultivated for less than 120 years and reached the skyscraping realm only 50 years ago. A commotion began on the drill ground the very moment that those words were uttered. Less than 120 years? Unbelievable! Jing Xianxia was frozen for a moment. Although her cultivation life of 210 years was shorter than that of many others, Gong Chao's was nearly half of hers. In the Skyward Pavilion, the experts from every sect were thrilled at Gong Chao's results. They praised him in amazement. Genius, exceptional genius. I thought that he should have cultivated for over 400 years, but it turns out that it's so much shorter. 120 years. It's amazing that he could make it so far in a short 120 years. Right then, Gong Chao heard his name echo throughout the place from the room on the top floor of the skyward pavilion. I'm the ninth elder of Cloud Sea Asgard, Shi Qianhan. The voice continued, You're so gifted that I want to invite you to be our disciple. All our resources for cultivation will be open to you, and I'll help you earn personal guidance from our master. As long as you try hard, I ensure you that you can reach the eternal realm in 10,000 years. Are you willing to accept my invitation? Those words startled all the geniuses present. They could not believe that the ninth elder of Cloud Sea Asgard had wanted to recruit Gong Chao with such attractive conditions. Personal guidance from a super Dao master? This was something that many experts would pursue their entire lifetime. In addition to that, there was the promising future of reaching the eternal realm in 10,000 years waiting for Gong Chao. Those conditions gave such a thrill to the geniuses, even though they were not for them. As Gong Chao was considering it, more invitations from the other sects began to come his way. Gong Chao, as long as you join our immortal dynasty, we will try hard to train you and ensure that you reach the eternal realm within 10,000 years. With luck, you may be able to do it in 3,000 years. We can do that for you too, Gong Chao. What's more, our master has planned to accept a personal disciple. Because you are so talented, that lucky guy will probably be you. Someone from the Boundless Demon sect chimed in. Those two sects tried to attract Gong Chao with their offerings as well. The two of you, seeing that there were two more competitors, Shi Qianhan shouted angrily. What? You have made your offer, so why can't we? The man from the Immortal dynasty yelled back coldly. Fine, I'd love to see if your conditions are really more attractive than ours. Shi Qianhan's voice was icy yet confident. The competition for Gong Chao between the three sects confused the onlookers. The other experts in the Skyward Pavilion were surprised as well. They had never seen anyone before that was wanted by all three of the magnates. At last, Cloud Sea Asgard was victorious over the other two sects due to its irresistible offerings. Then, Gong Chao became their disciple. The two failed sects had to give up, however unwilling they might have been. The test of the genius's cultivation ages went on. Finally, it was Jian Wushuang's turn. Next up, Jian Wushuang. The moment that his name was called, many people began to look at him. As the only one who had managed to force Gong Chao to go all out, it would have been hard for him to go unnoticed. Now, Jian Wushuang is going to take the test. How long do you think he has cultivated? The voice of the man from the Immortal dynasty again echoed in the Skyward Pavilion. I think at least more than 2,000 years. That's too talented for him. I think it must be longer than Huaying. Maybe. But, considering that he has gotten some opportunities to gain the doppelganger secret skill, he may have relied on something other than time to gain his current power. Those experts chatted with each other while watching Jian Wushuang take his test. Mr. Xianyi, Jian Wushuang is your disciple. Are you really not interested in his cultivation time? The girl from the Boundless Demon sect asked Xianyi. Those sects had promised Xianyi that they would give up trying to recruit all the 6 geniuses from the ancient world, so in their eyes, Jian Wushuang was already a member of the ancient sect. Xianyi laughed at the girl's words. Since I've accepted him as our inner disciple, it doesn't matter how long he has cultivated. Even if he is more than 4,000 years old and at the day of his doom, I won't change my mind and I'll help him go further. Shi Qianhan interrupted their talk with irony in his voice. If he is really that old, he is indeed trash in view of his current power. Does he deserve your care and help? Humph. I'll just say it. You are just wasting your time and resources. We have nothing but time and resources in our sect, so as long as I want, I can push him up to the eternal realm. That's beyond your reach, isn't? Xianyi sneered and fought back. On hearing this, Shi Qianhan's face darkened slightly. It would take so many resources to push a skyscraping realm expert up to the eternal realm that only the 3 magnates were able to do it. However, even if they were to do that, the cost would be too high. And being just one of the elders in Cloud Sea Asgard, Shi Qianhan was in no position to try it. He was different from Xianyi. Xianyi was recognized as the #1 Eternal Realm expert in the Firmament territory, second only to his master in the ancient sect. In addition to that, he possessed many treasures himself, so it was easy for him to achieve that. Whatever, if you want to waste your money, go right ahead, Shi Qianhan said coldly. Let's wait and see. On the drill ground, as Jian Wushuang walked over to Elder Qiu, everyone's eyes were fixed on him. Even Gong Chao looked at him with sharp eyes. Jian Wushuang. He watched him closely. Jian Wushuang was the only one in the Firmament Territory feast that he regarded as his opponent. Though he had defeated him, he still thought that Jian Wushuang had restrained his power when battling him. When Jian Wushuang walked up to Elder Qiu, the latter ordered him in an icy voice, "Give me a drop of your blood." Jian Wushuang immediately squeezed a drop of blood out from his finger. The elder put the blood into the container and started examining it. After being calm for several moments, the elder suddenly had a shocked expression on his face. "How could this be possible?" he murmured. He could not believe his eyes and then looked up at Jian Wushuang. "Please give me one more drop of your blood." "Okay." Jian Wushuang nodded and did as he had been told. This time, the elder examined the blood with more scrutiny. But to his surprise, the result was still the same. "It can't be. This. He stared at Jian Wushuang in horror as if he was staring at a ghost. He opened his mouth and tried to say something, but for a while, not a sound escaped his mouth. The host saw his unusual behavior and asked with concern, "What's the matter, Elder Qiu?" The elder hemmed and hawed, and after taking a deep breath, he turned over to face the skyward pavilion and bowed. Finally, he could speak again. "Ladies and gentlemen, Jian Wushuang's result has come out." His voice betrayed his astonishment, echoing throughout the whole place. "It has been less than 40 years since he started cultivating." "What?" Everyone was startled by those words. "Less than 40 years? And he has been in the skyscraping realm for less than 1 year." The elder's voice echoed again. As Elder Qiu finished speaking, the noisy drill grounds suddenly quietened. The words echoed in their ears. His cultivation age was less than 40. He reached the skyscraping realm less than 1 year ago. Elder Qiu. The presiding middle-aged man regained his composure first. He looked at Elder Qiu and said with a smile, "Did you miss something? Did you take 4,000 years as 40 years? All eyes gazed at Elder Qiu, hoped he had made a mistake. Elder Qiu took a deep breath, said, "I didn't believe it at first, so I checked it twice. The results are the same. I swear to you that the test result is true. Jian Wushuang's cultivation age is less than 40 years, and he reached the skyscraping realm less than a year ago." Elder Qiu had sworn on his life. No one could doubt it anymore. But cultivation age, less than 40 years. The skyscraping realm, less than 1 year? Many of the experts from all sects in the skyward pavilion were muttering, vacant-eyed. Just now, they were guessing how long Jian Wushuang had cultivated. Most of them thought it was over 2,000 years. A few guessed Jian Wushuang had gotten some lucky opportunities and thought it would not be longer than Feng and Huiying's cultivation age but at least 1,000 years. It was a miracle if Jian Wushuang could have made it within 1,000 years in such a poor cultivation environment. Feng, strong and having a high potential, had cultivated for 1,900 years. However, when they heard the test result, all of them were astounded. They were stunned, totally stunned. So were the geniuses on the drill grounds. 40 years, less than 40 years? Huiying growled and went red in the face. A complicated feeling of being astounded, amazed but more ashamed flashed in his eyes. Both of us cultivated in the ancient world. I have spent 3,700 years, he just spent 40 years. How could he be so much stronger than me? I have lived for 3,700 years in vain. At this moment, he hoped to find a hole and to hide in it. Among all the geniuses here, he had spent the longest time in cultivation. Besides, he came from the same ancient world with Jian Wushuang. To cultivate in the same environment, Jian Wushuang spent only 40 years, but he spent 3,700 years. More importantly, Jian Wushuang was stronger than him. What have I done with my time? How could it be possible? Less than 40 years? You must be kidding. Dear God, am I in a dream? A genius coming from the ancient world who has only cultivated for 40 years is much stronger than us. We are geniuses of the eternal world. Is it because I know little of what is going on in the ancient worlds? Has the cultivation environment of the ancient worlds become better than that of the eternal world? People on the drill grounds were also in shock. Crazy. All of them felt that the world had gone mad. His cultivation age is less than 40 years. Even Gong Chao was gasping with astonishment. He was known as a real super genius, counted as one of the best of all the geniuses of all firmament territory feasts so far. Despite his talent and cultivation in the eternal world, he had spent 120 years and had been in the skyscraping realm for 50 years. Jian Wushuang cultivated in the ancient world. He spent much less time than him, and despite this he was nearly as strong as him. If he was a monster, a super genius, what was Jian Wushuang? A peerless super genius. A peerless super genius who is even more talented than Gong Chao. It took him only 40 years to reach such a level in the ancient world, and he has been in the skyscraping realm for less than 1 year. I guess he came to the firmament territory feast not long after reaching the skyscraping realm. He is definitely a much more talented genius than Gong Chao. The drill grounds were in shock and all stared at Jian Wushuang as if he was a monster. They imagined he might not be a human. Genius, exceptional genius, or monster. These words were not enough to describe him. They could only think of 2 words. Heaven-defying. A heaven-defying level genius. In the Skyward Pavilion, the experts who had come from all sects, although experienced and knowledgeable, were also speechless. Even Xianxia was surprised. He knew that Jian Wushuang was extraordinary, for he hadn't even gained an insight into Jian Wushuang. But he hadn't expected that his cultivation age was so short. Xianxia calmed down soon and looked at him happily. Nice. It's a worthy visit today. 3 experts who respectively represented the most 3 powerful sects sat in 3 rooms in the Skyward Pavilion. They paid little attention to Jian Wushuang as he came from the ancient world, even though Jian Wushuang had performed well. They had promised to give up these ancient world's geniuses to Xianxia at the very beginning. But now, the 3 of them felt deep remorse. Very deep. They knew that Jian Wushuang was more talented than Gong Chao. They had fought crazily for Gong Chao. How could they give up a heaven-defying genius who was better than Gong Chao to Xianxia? How stupid I am. Xianxia is a visionary. If these young men were ordinary, how could Xianxia pick them? The arrogant middle-aged man from the Immortal dynasty was so regretful that he wanted to slap himself. Such a heaven-defying genius. The evil lady of the Boundless Demon sect looked passionately over at Jian Wushuang. He has such achievements in the ancient world within 40 years. From now on, he will stay and cultivate in the eternal world. If enough cultivation resources and treasures are given, he will easily reach the eternal realm, even be a Tao master. Such a genius. But I have promised Mr. Xianxia. The evil young lady sighed. She was unwilling to do it. But she had promised Xianxia in front of so many experts in the Skyward Pavilion. To renege on her promise was humiliating. Besides, this was Xianxia to whom she had promised. She knew how terrifying Xianxia was. That was why she dared not to break her promise. Both the evil lady and the middle-aged man of the Immortal dynasty were sorry to lose a super genius. However, Shi Chenhan, the black-haired elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard, didn't care too much. People on the drill grounds were amazed at Jian Wushuang's cultivation age. Suddenly a mighty power fell on the drill grounds. The drill grounds immediately quieted down. Geniuses on the drill ground shivered and dared not make any noise under the mighty power. As the mighty power spread, an elder appeared in the center of the drill grounds. It was a sage-like, black-haired and slurry-eyed elder. As soon as he appeared, all people on the ground turned to him, realizing where the mighty power came from. I'm Shi Chenhan, the 9th elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard. Shi Chenhan looked over at Jian Wushuang, said slowly, Jian Wushuang, I came personally to invite you to join the Cloud Sea Asgard. You will have equal access to the cultivation resources with Gong Chao. What do you think? Hearing that, Jian Wushuang was surprised. The Cloud Sea Asgard had never paid attention to him in the former rounds. even though he had performed well. He didn't expect that as soon as his cultivation age had been tested in the 4th round, Shi Qianhan would come in person to invite him. After all, he had only invited Gong Chao to join the Cloud Sea Asgard through sound transmission only. The drill grounds were in tumult. Apparently they also hadn't expected that Shi Qianhan would come in person and offer Jian Wushuang the same as Gong Chao. It was such a good offer that all of them were envious of the one who received it. Cloud Sea Asgard? Jian Wushuang remembered the information he had read about Cloud Sea Asgard. Cloud Sea Asgard was one of the 3 magnates. It was not that far-fetched to call it the most powerful sect in the firmament territory. Normally, the more powerful a sect was, the more cultivating resources and room to grow it had. Shi Qianhan's offer was tempting even for Jian Wushuang. However, before Jian Wushuang answered him, a cold voice sounded, "Shi Qianhan, that's not a good idea. As the 9th elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard, you should not break your promise. Don't you feel ashamed of being laughed at by other sects?" An arrogant man's voice followed. Then 2 figures appeared at Shi Qianhan's side at once. They were the arrogant man of the Immortal dynasty and the evil lady of the Boundless Demon sect. "Shi Qianhan, I have heard that you're not a man of decency. You really aren't. Don't you feel embarrassed?" The evil lady sneered at him. It's none of your business," Shi Qianhan said in a cold voice. "Yes, but you have to ask Xianyi first," the evil young lady said with a deep voice. Immediately another figure appeared at Shi Qianhan's side. This was Xianyi, a purple-robed gentleman with sword-shaped eyebrows. Shi Qianhan's face fell after seeing Xianyi. Then he said with a smile, "Xianyi, I promised to give Jian Wushuang up to you without knowing he was an exceptional genius. But now, he is so special that I cannot give him up to you. By the way, such an exceptional genius should have the right to decide himself which sect to join. Don't you think?" Shi Qianhan had made up grand reasons for himself, but experts in the Skyward Pavilion all had contempt for his behavior. He had not spared a glance at Jian Wushuang before. Therefore, when Xianyi said he wanted those young men of the ancient worlds, Shi Qianhan agreed not to fight him without hesitation. Now, after knowing Jian Wushuang's real strength, he regretted this and changed his mind at once. Such a shameless person. Hearing what Shi Qianhan had said, Xianyi's expression didn't change at all. He took a glance at Shi Qianhan and nodded. "You're right. Such an exceptional genius surely has the right to decide for himself," Xianyi said. People around were all astonished at the unexpected words. They thought Xianyi would be angry, but didn't expect that he was so easily persuaded. "Jian Wushuang." Xianyi looked over at Jian Wushuang. "Master Xianyi." Jian Wushuang bowed to Xianyi. Xianyi was the first Eternal Realm expert in the firmament territory, and he had given Jian Wushuang the token at the beginning of round 3. Therefore, Jian Wushuang respected him. Before he had shown his real strength, no one but Xianyi befriended and sent him an invitation. That alone had made Jian Wushuang favor Xianyi. "You have heard what was said." Xianyi smiled slightly. "Your talent is high. The Cloud Sea Asgard wants you and has promised you a lot. It's a good opportunity for you to take a second to consider." The ancient sect, Xianyi paused, and then he continued, "I promised you that you would become an inner disciple of the ancient sect at the end of round 3. This has not changed. In the ancient sect, no matter what you want, you have to fight for it yourself." Hearing this, Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. "Shi Qianhan." Xianyi looked at Shi Qianhan and said in a cold voice, "You have promised him a lot. But if his growth in the Cloud Sea Asgard doesn't meet your expectations, I'm afraid you will not keep your promise. Right? This?" Shi Qianhan's eyes froze a little. In the Cloud Sea Asgard, there were many disciples and the competition between them was stiff. Everything depended on strength. He had promised Jian Wushuang a lot. But if Jian Wushuang didn't perform well in the Cloud Sea Asgard, to not waste the resources, the Cloud Sea Asgard would certainly not keep their promise. "Humph!" Xianyi snorted. Then he turned to Jian Wushuang, said, "Young man, people in the firmament territory know who I am. If I bring you back to the ancient sect, I will try my best to support you and improve your strength to a higher level even if your potential is exhausted. It is what I can promise you, and this is also what the ancient sect can promise you. The ancient sect will never give up on any of its disciples no matter how weak his strength or talent is. The words reverberated through the whole battlefield and inspired all those present. His promise was much more sincere than Shi Qianhan's. Jian Wushuang was also moved. Turning to Shi Qianhan, he was clear at a glance. Although he promised me a lot, I could only get them based on improvement in strength, which means that I have to fight for it by myself. It's the same with what the ancient sect has promised me. Compared with Shi Qianhan, Master Xianyi is much more sincere. The ancient sect will never give up on any of its disciples. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and made a decision. Then he raised his head. Master Xianyi, I have decided to join the ancient sect, Jian Wushuang said earnestly. Then he turned to Shi Qianhan and said, I'm sorry, Elder Shi. Your offer is tempting. But Master Xianyi had invited me at the end of round 3. I cannot refuse him. Xianyi smiled slightly. It seemed he had already expected this result. But Shi Qianhan became angry, as a hint of cruelty flashed in his eyes. Young man, think about it carefully. As the most powerful sect in the firmament territory, the Cloud Sea Asgard has the most resources. What's more, you have just come to the eternal world. I'm afraid you are not aware of the danger here. It's easy to be killed without the protection of a powerful sect. In the firmament territory, only the Cloud Sea Asgard can protect you from being killed by others. Take this seriously. Shi Qianhan spat out the last sentence. Hearing that, many geniuses on the drill grounds and experts in the Skyward Pavilion frowned. They were aware that Shi Qianhan was hinting at something. It was more like a threat. Yes, it was a threat. He threatened that if Jian Wushuang didn't join the Cloud Sea Asgard, the Cloud Sea Asgard would become his enemy and kill him one day. Jian Wushuang was sullen. Having experienced so much in the ancient world, he understood what Shi Qianhan was saying. He looked over at Xianyi. This was the someone he had to depend on. Shi Qianhan. Xianyi's calm and cold voice arose. What? Did I say something wrong? Shi Qianhan glanced at Xianyi, being high-handed as the 9th elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard, the most powerful sect in the firmament territory. No, you're right. Xianyi nodded slightly. The eternal world is a dangerous place. So you agree with me? Shi Qianhan said with a cold smile. But suddenly his smile froze. He saw a sparkling sword light heading towards him. An ice-cold and dazzling sword light. Everyone's attention was caught by it as soon as it appeared. They couldn't help staring at it. Then the sword light moved fast. So fast. So fast as if it had gone beyond the limit of time and space. At an incredible speed. Facing the unexpected attack, all of them were astonished. Xianyi. Shi Qianhan was panic-stricken. He had never expected that Xianyi, who was calm and nice just now, would suddenly attack him with such a terrible killing move. It was too fast. Geniuses on the drill grounds, including Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao, couldn't see it clearly. Even the top Divine Realm experts in the Skyward Pavilion couldn't do it. Only a few of the Eternal Realm experts present could do this, but they still couldn't follow it. Such as Shi Qianhan. As the sword approached, Shi Qianhan couldn't even defend against it. He could only cry out. Whoosh! The dazzling sword light passed through. Shi Qianhan's body was cut in half like a piece of paper. Although they had not yet figured out how the sword moved, they saw clearly at the next moment that Shi Qianhan, the 9th elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard, had already been cut in half. Silence. The huge drill ground was in silence. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Many geniuses on the drill ground and experts in the Skyward Pavilion gazed upon this scene in awe. Did he die? Jian Wushuang's eyes were fixed in a blank stare. As an elder of the Cloud Sea Asgard, Shi Qianhan was an Eternal Realm expert. Experts like him were masters in the firmament territory. However, Xianyi cut him in half with one strike of his sword. That strike. It haunted in Jian Wushuang's memory. A swift and frightening strike. It had been too fast and too terrifying. Among all the geniuses present, Jian Wushuang's cultivated the principle of the sword more than the others. But even he couldn't comprehend the blow from that sword. He just felt it was too powerful. Right then, Xianyi, an angry voice called out. It was Shi Qianhan. What? Many of the geniuses on the drill ground had become frantic. Their hair stood on end seeing Shi Qianhan's body cut in half. His upper half rose into the air. His face flamed with anger and his eyes fixed on Xianyi. How could it be possible? Jian Wushuang was stunned. How could he survive being cut in half? I heard that the Eternal Realm expert would continue to live as long as his life core was unbroken. It seems it's true. The geniuses of the Eternal World recalled. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang felt overwhelmed. Life core? As long as the life core remained intact, he would live. Jian Wushuang looked around. Seeing that the experts who were walking out of the skyward pavilion didn't seem surprised. Apparently they knew Shi Qianhan was not dead, but they were still shocked. Few of them had seen Xianyi fight before. They were shocked by his strength. Xianyi, how dare you? Shi Qianhan's face twisted, and he stared at Xianyi with hatred in his eyes. Suddenly, whoosh! A ghost-like figure appeared in front of him no less than a meter away. It was Xianyi. His face had changed from a soft gaze to an ice-cold stare. Anyone who met his stare would start to shiver uncontrollably. Shi Qianhan. Xianyi called him, his voice heavy with the intent of killing Shi Qianhan. Shi Qianhan's eyes were wide open and filled with fear. Terrified, the terror flooded Shi Qianhan's mind. He felt Xianyi held his life in his hands. I agree with you. The Eternal World is dangerous, Xianyi said calmly. Ha! Shi Qianhan looked in horror at Xianyi. He couldn't understand why he said that. In the dangerous world, it is not only Jian Wushuang, but you also need to be careful. In the Eternal World, even in the firmament territory, there are many people that could kill you, Xianyi said in a cold voice. How dare you? Shi Qianhan gazed at Xianyi, his eyes conveying both fear and anger. Xianyi grinned a gruesome smile like a sharp knife. Then he moved forward, whispered in Shi Qianhan's ear. Shi Qianhan, ask your palace master whether or not I dare to kill you. What he does if I do kill you. Make sure he understands. Tell him, I will kill any of the Cloud Sea Asgard that threatens a disciple of the ancient sect. Tell him everything. Shi Qianhan gulped. His fear had intensified and a cold sweat had broken out on his forehead. The elder of the Immortal dynasty and the evil lady of the boundless demon sect looked pitifully at Shi Qianhan as if he was a fool. Foolish. How dare he threaten Jian Wushuang in front of Xianyi? Does he really think Xianyi is a pushover? The elder of the Immortal dynasty sneered. He really thought the Cloud Sea Asgard was the most powerful sect in the firmament territory. How reckless he is to offend Xianyi in public. Usually, Xianyi is nice and easygoing. Usually. But if he got angry, he would definitely launch a massacre. I have not seen it with my own eyes, though I have heard tales of it. When Xianyi made waves in the firmament territory, the palace master of the Cloud Sea Asgard had not yet been born. The evil lady of the boundless demon sect also sneered. They were smarter than Shi Qianhan. They knew that the person in the firmament territory couldn't be offended. Long ago, their sect masters had warned them that two people in the ancient sect couldn't be offended. One was the ancient sect's master. The other one was Xianyi. They were told that the ancient sect was a special sect inside the firmament territory and Xianyi was the special one in the ancient sect. Therefore, they dared not offend Xianyi. However, in his stupidity, Shi Qianhan had done so today. The drill ground was silent. Everybody on the ground looked on in shock. Shi Qianhan did not dare say another word, fearing that Xianyi would kill him, because Xianyi could easily do so. Jian Wushuang. Xianyi softened his demeanor and looked at Jian Wushuang. He said softly, Don't worry. As you're a disciple of the ancient sect, they will protect you. No one will hurt you unless the ancient sect gets destroyed. Finally, Jian Wushuang still chose to join the ancient sect. The experts were not surprised about his decision. But Shi Qianhan was humiliated and lost all face. Perhaps the Cloud Sea Asgard was indeed very strong. But Shi Qianhan relied only on this to compete with Xianyi, which was pretty ridiculous. In the fourth round, the cultivation ages were still being checked. Numerous geniuses received their results, and some of the cultivation ages were also very short, but still Jian Wushuang was vastly superior to the others. Soon, all the geniuses finished the examination, and the last round of the genius battle was completely over. The Firmament Territory Feast, which was held every 3,000 years and attracted numerous sects in the Firmament Territory, was finally finished. Next, most of the geniuses chose to join their own sects. Jian Wushuang, Feng, Huaying, and the other geniuses who were from the ancient world all became the disciples of the ancient sect. Jian Wushuang. A figure appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Gong Chao. Jian Wushuang looked at him. You really have good talent. I am looking forward to fighting with you, Gong Chao said. Me too. Jian Wushuang slightly smiled. In this Firmament Territory Feast, Gong Chao was at the top based on his strength, but Jian Wushuang was the best according to talent. No rush, you two definitely can compete one day. A gentle man in a purple robe walked towards them. Xianxia Lord. Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao both bowed to him. Although Gong Chao didn't join the ancient sect, he respected Xianxia, who was the number one in the Firmament Territory of the Eternal Realm. Soon, there will be an exchange between the ancient sect and the Cloud Sea Asgard. You two can compete at that moment, Xianxia answered with a smile. Really? Jian Wushuang and Gong Chao both raised their eyebrows. I'm waiting for you to challenge me, Gong Chao said. Trust me, I won't disappoint you. Jian Wushuang slightly smiled. After that, Gong Chao went to Cloud Sea Asgard with Shi Qianhan, who had already recovered. You six, follow me to the ancient sect. Xianxia waved. Jian Wushuang, Feng, and the other people quickly looked at each other and then followed. On the way to the ancient sect, they all had a hint of anticipation. They wanted to know, as one of the top sects, what unique features it had to surpass the other three powerhouses in the Firmament Territory. Following Xianxia for 2 days, the 6 people finally arrived at the ancient sect. The Firmament Territory was very vast. The ancient sect, as one of the top sects there, was located in a huge and ancient mountain range. This mountain range with countless alpine jungles stretched for thousands of miles, and the ancient sect was in its center. Above the void, Jian Wushuang, Feng, Huaying, Bingshan, Xianxia, and Wu Huang were floating patiently. They all respectfully stared at the giant and ancient sect which was in front of them. This old sect was under the protection of a huge formation. The formation was mysterious and powerful. Inside the sect there were many giant mountains, and in the valleys between the mountains there were a large number of palaces and pavilions. Magnificent and huge. At the same time, its ancient aura was overflowing as well. The spiritual power here. Jian Wushuang looked around and realized the heaven and earth spiritual energy in this void was much more powerful than the other places in the eternal world. Not only the heaven and earth spiritual energy, but also the origin energy was stronger than any other place. That's the ancient sect. Not to mention others, its location is already superior to other places. Jian Wushuang admired this deeply. Follow me, Xianxia said, and then he went straight to the interior of the sect. The experts within all expected and knew Xianxia, so they didn't activate the huge formation when they saw him. When Jian Wushuang and the others followed Xianxia to enter the ancient sect, they kept looking around and could sense a tremendous aura nearby. You 6 just arrived here, but you all will cultivate here, so I will tell you our rules and some news about the ancient sect, Xianxia said. Jian Wushuang and the others listened carefully. You must have already received some information about the unique features of our ancient sect. Although we ancient sect is only one of the top sects in the Firmament Territory, we are much better than the other 3 powerhouses, especially in training our disciples. Now, I can't tell you why, but you will know about it when the time is right, Xianxia said. Let me tell you some details about the internal situation of the ancient sect now. In the ancient sect, we have plenty of cultivation resources, which includes 1 mountain and 3 palaces. 1 mountain and 3 palaces? Jian Wushuang was confused. These 1 mountain and 3 palaces are related to the foundation of the ancient sect. Let me show you the mountain first, Xianxia said. Soon they reached a huge giant mountain. Inside the ancient sect, there were hundreds of similar giant mountains, but this one in front of them was totally covered by a huge formation. This gave one the feeling of extreme mystery. This giant mountain? Jian Wushuang frowned and stared at it. He felt so familiar with it. This giant mountain is called Enlightenment Mountain, Xianxia said. Enlightenment Mountain? Jian Wushuang, Feng, and the others were shocked. Before, in the second round of the genius battle, the geniuses had already known about the Enlightenment Mountain and had stayed there for 1 full month. They also had spent 1 month there, so they were all familiar with the name. The characteristics of this Enlightenment Mountain are the same as the one that you stayed in the Firmament Territory feast. After all, that one simulates ours, Xianxia said with a smile. That's it. Jian Wushuang, Feng, and the others suddenly understood. You all stayed and cultivated Dao in the Enlightenment Mountain before, so you should know that the cultivation speed inside it is twice as fast compared to the outside. However, the speed here is at least 3 times faster, Xianxia said. On hearing this, Jian Wushuang's, Feng's, and the others' eyes lit up. They knew how useful it was as they had previously stayed in the Enlightenment Mountain for 1 month. Especially Jian Wushuang, he had obtained a significant improvement during that month. But now cultivating here could be 2 times faster than before, which was even more effective. Don't be too excited now. When Xianxia saw these 6 excited faces, he smiled and said, although the effect of cultivating in this Enlightenment Mountain is much better, not everyone can meditate here. In the ancient sect, only the inner disciples are qualified to cultivate in it. Only for the inner disciples? Bing Shan, Xianning, and Wu Huang suddenly felt a bit lost and disappointed. These 3 were outer disciples, so they couldn't get into the Enlightenment Mountain. Only Jian Wushuang, Feng, and Huaying were able to cultivate inside. Jian Wushuang, Feng, Huaying. Xianning looked at them. You 3 are our inner disciples, so you can cultivate here. There are 36 cave mansions in the Enlightenment Mountain and 33 of them are occupied, so you guys can pick those 3. Yes. Feng and Huaying nodded immediately. There are 36 cave mansions in this Enlightenment Mountain? Jian Wushuang frowned and asked, Xianxia Lord, you just mentioned that as long as they are inner disciples, they can cultivate in it. But there are only 36 cave mansions, so are there only 36 inner disciples in the ancient sect? You are already one of our disciples, so you don't need to call me Xianxia Lord. The disciples here call me Xianxia Palace Master, and you can follow them. Xianxia mentioned a side point and continued. You are right. We only have 36 inner disciples, and that's already a lot. By the way, there are no more than 36 inner disciples in the ancient sect. Why is it? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. The sects with strong strength in the ancient world always took millions of disciples. The ancient sect as a top sect which only ranked behind the 3 magnates in the Firmament Territory should have taken on a large number of disciples. Only 36 inner disciples sounded like this was really too few. We only can accept 36 people to meditate and cultivate in the Enlightenment Mountain at once, and also we want to encourage the inner disciples to compete, so that's why we only have 36, Xianxia patiently explained. In the ancient sect, the inner disciples and the outer disciples can all fight for the cultivation resource. There is a competition every 10 years here for our disciples. Every time, some of the inner disciples who are not good enough would be replaced by the outer disciples. After all, there are only 36 inner disciples but numerous outer disciples. Some of the outer disciples are real geniuses, and some were inner disciples before, so their strength is also very strong. Every sect competition, some inner disciples whose strength are weaker would be challenged by the outer disciples, but only couple of them could withstand it. That's it. Jian Wushuang and the others all understood. The sect competition, which was held every 10 years, could decide the identity of disciples based on their strength. That indeed enhanced the competition between the outer and inner disciples. As long as the outer disciples could have a fast improvement and strong strength, they could also become inner disciples. Likewise, if the inner disciples were defeated, they would become outer disciples. At the previous sect competition, which was held 8 years ago, the next one will be in 2 years. Jian Wushuang, Feng, and Huaying, since you 3 just got here, your strength is weaker than the other inner disciples or even some outer disciples. Therefore, during these 2 years, you need to work really hard to keep your identity, Xianxia said with a mysterious smile. On hearing this, Jian Wushuang, Feng and Huaying all felt a hint of pressure. In 2 years, the sect competition would start again. Since they just joined the ancient sect, their strength was at the bottom. It was really not easy for them to remain inner disciples. However, you don't need to worry too much. Since you are new here, you definitely will get a big improvement with the resources of the ancient sect. Besides, even if you become an outer disciple in 2 years, you can get it back in the next sect competition. It is held every 10 years. 10 years will pass pretty fast, Xianyi said and smiled. Even though Xianyi tried to make them relax, they 3 were still nervous about it. Okay, so let me tell you the details about the 3 palaces in the ancient sect, Xianyi continued. These 3 palaces are Dao Palace, Sword Palace, and Divine Palace. Dao Palace is to cultivate Dao. There are 13 palace masters in the Dao Palace, and all of them are experts who had comprehended a super high-level Dao in the Eternal Realm. Other than that, there are numerous vice palace masters who are superior Divine Realm experts, so they also have a good comprehension of Dao. The palace masters and vice palace masters always gather in the Dao Palace and record their insights and opportunities which can be obtained by our disciples. You also can go to listen to their lectures and even choose to join their sects and become their disciples. Usually, the disciples here all join one sect of the palace masters or vice palace masters. Some experts even join 2 or 3 at the same time. The masters there will guide you and help you to apply necessary natural treasures while you are cultivating. Jian Wushuang and the others were all surprised. Almost all the disciples of the ancient sect joined the sects of the palace masters or vice palace masters in the Dao Palace. You just got here, so it would be better for you to choose the right masters, join their sects and become their disciples. Even though you can only be a nominal disciple, it would be much better than for you to cultivate by yourself without any guide, Xianyi said. Jian Wushuang, Feng and Huaying all agreed with Xianyi. They had just arrived at the Eternal World and met experts from a higher level. Although they knew that the Divine Realm, Eternal Realm, and even Dao Master were above the skyscraping realm, they didn't know how to progress after that at all. It would be much better and easier to have an expert to guide them. Xianyi continued. Apart from the Dao Palace, the Sword Palace and the Divine Palace are also in the ancient sect. Sword Palace, as its name, is for people to cultivate the sword principle. It is also very unique in the ancient sect. All the warriors who are good at longsword Dao cultivate in the Sword Palace. However, there are only 1 palace master and 2 vice palace masters in it. The 2 vice palace masters are Eternal Realm experts who are good at longsword Dao, and the palace master, Xianyi smiled mysteriously and said, "I'm the palace master in the Sword Palace." On hearing that, Jian Wushuang and the other people were not surprised. In the Firmament Territory Feast, Xianyi divided Shi Qianhan into 2 parts with his swordsmanship. That showed how good he was at sword principle. Besides, he was also acknowledged as the number 1 Eternal Realm in the Firmament Territory, so he was the most appropriate person to be the Palace Master in the Sword Palace. As for the Divine Palace, Xianyi hesitated for a moment and continued. It gathered numerous Divine Realm warriors in the ancient sect. There is a rule in our sect. The disciples can be in the ancient sect for no more than 500 years. Anyone who is here more than that, they can't have the same treatment as our disciples, which means they can't cultivate in the Dao Palace and the Sword Palace, and also can't stay in the Enlightenment Mountain. The only place that they can go is the Divine Palace. Inside the Divine Palace, there are lots of dangerous tasks that are assigned by the ancient sect and the Divine Realm experts who represent our ancient sect to fight to the death outside. You can think about it like this. The ancient sect will train you for the first 500 years. After that, you need to contribute to us. The 6 people all nodded slightly. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Since they chose to join the sect and use its resources, then when their strength was strong enough, they should contribute to the sect. Xianyi Palace Master. A black-clothed elder popped up in the void and bowed respectfully to Xianyi. Then he looked at Jian Wushuang and the other people. These should be the 6 geniuses that Xianyi Palace Master took from the Firmament Territory Feast? Give me the tokens, Xianyi said. The black-clothed elder immediately gave 6 tokens to Xianyi, and then Xianyi gave 1 to each of the 6 people. This is your ID token. Of course, The outer disciples and the inner disciples are different, Xianxia said. Jian Wushuang and the others took it, without hesitation. They refined their own tokens. Dao Yun, these kids just arrived at the ancient sect, so they are new here. I've explained the Enlightenment Mountain and 3 palaces to them, so please take them to look around the place, Xianxia ordered. Yes. The black-clothed elder Dao Yun nodded respectfully. Jian Wushuang, you stay here and the other 5 follow him, Xianxia said. Immediately, Feng, Huaying and the others left with Dao Yun. But Jian Wushuang still stood in front of Xianxia. Jian Wushuang, among these 6, you are the only one who is good at longsword Dao and whose talent is the best. Follow me and I can show you the Sword Palace, Xianxia said. Sword Palace. Jian Wushuang was excited and instantly followed Xianxia. Soon after, Jian Wushuang arrived at the Sword Palace. It was gigantic and was like a giant island standing on the ground. There were hundreds of buildings on it. The tremendous sword essence also shocked Jian Wushuang a lot. Outside the Sword Palace, there were lots of experts patrolling. Obviously, these experts were all Divine Realm experts and they all had auras that really terrified Jian Wushuang. In the Eternal World, the skyscraping realm was at the top level, so there were thousands of Divine Realm experts here. However, the ancient sect, which was a top sect here, would obviously gather more Divine Realm experts. When Xianxia appeared outside the Sword Palace, the Divine Realm experts who were patrolling here immediately bowed to him and called him Xianxia Palace Master. Jian Wushuang, your gift in Sword Principle is extremely high. Inside the Sword Palace, lots of Sword Principle experts record their insight. It will be very useful for you. Later, you can come here more often to meditate, Xianxia said patiently. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon, they both stepped on a several-foot-wide flagstone road, which headed towards the front door of the Sword Palace. On the front door, there were 2 grand characters, Sword Palace. Those 2 characters spread powerful sword essence which covered the whole Sword Palace and then flew to the sky. Even the numerous layers of space couldn't stop it. Jian Wushuang was stunned. It was the most terrifying sword essence that he had seen. Jian Wushuang looked at Xianxia and noticed that Xianxia was unfathomable. He couldn't help suspecting that these 2 characters were written by Xianxia. Walking along the flagstone road and coming to the front of the Sword Palace, Xianxia stopped and looked at Jian Wushuang. Little kid, you are so lucky today. One of our Vice Palace Masters is having a lecture now, you can go listen. I will just take you up to here. Thanks, Xianxia Palace Master. Jian Wushuang replied politely. Then he took a deep breath and went into the Sword Palace. Xianxia was still outside the front door. When he saw Jian Wushuang completely disappear, swoosh, a figure unexpectedly appeared beside him. This person looked exactly the same as Xianxia, even the manner and temperament were completely the same. He was also very gentle. The only difference was one was in a purple robe but one was in a white robe. The people who knew him would know that Xianxia had cultivated the doppelganger secret skill. Obviously, the one who took part in the Firmament Territory Feast and brought Jian Wushuang and the others back to the ancient sect was his doppelganger. As for the original body, he hadn't gone out at all. He had been staying in the Sword Palace the whole time. The white-robed Xianxia who just popped up was his original body. You really got a great little kid for me this time. The strongest sword soul. Haha, I haven't met this for a long time. The white-robed Xianxia smiled gently, and the purple-robed Xianxia beside him also smiled slightly. The purple-robed Xianxia was only the doppelganger. So even though he observed Jian Wushuang showing his technique, he still couldn't fully appreciate his strength. But the white-robed Xianxia, as the original body, without seeing Jian Wushuang's technique, only looked at him once and then already knew Jian Wushuang had the strongest sword soul. After stepping inside Sword Palace, Jian Wushuang quickly arrived at a huge martial arts practice field where there were lots of people seated with their legs crossed. At first glance, there seemed to be hundreds of people. All of them were sitting with their legs crossed, listening silently to the lecture delivered by the young man at the top of the platform. The young man looked rather pale and his voice sounded somewhat weak as if he got ill very often. However, such a sickly man himself exuded a sort of frightful sword essence which could easily destroy Jian Wushuang. It suddenly struck Jian Wushuang that this sickly young man was actually one of the 2 Vice Palace Masters in Sword Palace, and he was currently giving a lecture. Jian Wushuang immediately found a place to sit down. He dared not make a sound and listened carefully. The Vice Palace Master was telling them some of his experiences related to sword principle, as well as dilemmas people might run across and their solutions. Jian Wushuang grew increasingly fascinated. As time went by, half a day passed in the twinkling of an eye. As his lecture was coming to an end, the Vice Palace Master suddenly stood up and executed a simple move on the platform. The sword swing did not any ups or downs. It was a plain move that left the space it passed through similarly undisturbed. On the surface, the movement of his sword looked like it completely lacked strength. However, as soon as the Vice Palace Master finished, an ear-piercing noise burst from where the long sword chopped and an unprecedented sword essence surged out from that empty area. Since almost all the people who attended lectures at martial arts practice field were good at exploring sword principle and had high attainment in it, they were all amazed at what they saw, and a few of them were even somewhat inspired. Like Jian Wushuang, he had a remarkable aptitude for sword principle and was currently in the heaven-treading realm. This movement evoked a strong feeling inside of him. Immediately closing his eyes without leaving the martial arts practice field, he began meditating, remaining there for a whole hour before he opened his eyes. Phew! Jian Wushuang relaxed as a smile grew on his face. Speaking of excellent moves, the movement of the Vice Palace Master was no match for the move that Xianxia used to split Shi Qianhan in two. But the move Xianxia used was too quick to catch up with, while the movement of this Vice Palace Master. Jian Wushuang recalled the movement just now. Apparently, this Vice Palace Master had controlled the speed so that everyone could see it clearly and be truly inspired. People like Jian Wushuang benefited a lot. Most of the people at martial arts practice field had also benefited a lot. Right then, haha, I figured it out. A voice full of surprise sounded throughout the martial arts practice field. All of the people at martial arts practice field immediately looked at the direction of the sound, and they found a slightly fat bald teenager who looked simple and honest laughing out loud. Figured it out? Jian Wushuang frowned. What did you figure out? The bald teenager went straight before the Vice Palace Master while ignoring the stares of everyone around him. Vice Palace Master Nye, I've fully comprehended the first sword scar, the bald teenager said respectfully. Eh? Vice Palace Master Nye raised his eyebrows. However, his appearance seemed to cause a stir at martial arts practice field. Everyone looked slightly surprised. The first sword scar? Jian Wushuang was confused. Show us your talent, Vice Palace Master Nye said. Okay. The bald teenager nodded and immediately began to practice his sword at martial arts practice field. Look, it's the first move. The bald teenager quickly displayed his move. The first attack dashed forward, accompanied by a lightning speed sword light that easily penetrated the space in front of him. This is the second sword. The second sword attack was released, leaving behind the impression of a vast and endless void. This is the third sword. When the third sword attack was released, it demonstrated great vigor and even violence. Look, it's the fourth move. The fifth move. The sword attacks continued on, with each move giving off a completely different prospect. The ninth move. The bald teenager spoke again as the ninth move was released, causing the whole area to tremble. After all 9 moves were finished, the bald teenager stopped. Up on the high platform, Vice Palace Master Nye witnessed the swordsmanship of the bald teenager. As soon as the 9 moves were finished, he nodded, smiled, and said, "Not bad. Since you've finished the 9 moves, that means you've comprehended the first sword scar. From now on, you're qualified to attend the Palace Master's lectures at Sword Tower." Thank you, Vice Palace Master Nye. The bald teenager looked surprised. The other sword principal on the drill ground looked at the bald teenager enviously. However, Jian Wushuang grew even more baffled. Since the man just displayed the 9 moves, demonstrating that he's comprehended the first sword scar, he was now eligible to attend lectures delivered by Palace Masters? Isn't anyone else qualified to go to the Sword Tower? Jian Wushuang murmured. Before long, the sword principal warriors on the martial arts practice field left along with Vice Palace Master Nye. The bald teenager who just performed the sword move also got up and was about to leave. Hey, senior brother. Jian Wushuang walked towards the bald teenager. Eh? The bald teenager frowned when he saw Jian Wushuang. Skyscraping realm? And I haven't seen you before. In the ancient sect, the ordinary disciples were mostly at the level of a divine realm expert, but a few of them were only in the skyscraping realm. Who are you? The bald teenager asked. I'm Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang introduced himself. Jian Wushuang? I haven't heard of you. You must have just joined the ancient sect, right? The bald teenager asked. You're right. Jian Wushuang nodded. No wonder. The bald teenager shrugged. I'm Zhu Lai, an outer disciple. What about you? Are you an outer disciple or? I was lucky enough to gain a place as an inner disciple at Firmament Territory Feast. Jian Wushuang said and smiled. Inner disciple? Zhu Lai paused for a while and soon a smile grew full of his face. That means your senior brother Jian Wushuang. I pay my respects. Senior brother? Jian Wushuang also paused for a moment as he had just called Zhu Lai senior brother. But now Zhu Lai was calling him senior brother instead. You don't know about this senior brother. No matter how long you stay at the ancient sect, only your strength and status matter. Generally, the outer disciple will call the inner disciple's senior brother, said Zhu Lai. That's it. Jian Wushuang didn't know how to react. I just arrived at the ancient sect and this is my first time inside the Sword Palace, so I don't know about anything. Would you mind telling me what this is all about? Jian Wushuang asked. Sure, Zhu Lai briskly replied. Actually, the Sword Palace is a place where numerous disciples in the ancient sect explore sword principle. There are 2 vice palace masters and 1 palace master who usually give public lectures at martial arts practice field. Sometimes they even show us their swordsmanship. Today happens to be a day when Vice Palace Master Nye gives his lectures. The Palace Master of Sword Palace, Palace Master Xianxia, who has a very powerful cultivation in sword principle that has already reached great heights, also occasionally give lectures. However, if you want to attend his lectures, you must meet certain requirements. Senior brother, please follow me. Zhu Lai led Jian Wushuang and they quickly reached a huge pavilion inside Sword Palace. This is Sword Tower. It's where Palace Master Xianxia gives lectures, said Zhu Lai. Jian Wushuang looked up at the huge pavilion before him and secretly nodded. Senior brother, look here. Zhu Lai pointed towards a dark stone tablet in front of the pavilion. Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the stone tablet and his expression changed abruptly. He immediately noticed that there were 3 distinct sword scars on the dark stone tablet. These 3 sword scars were deeply engraved, placed together from top to bottom. Jian Wushuang looked at these 3 sword scars and his pupil suddenly shrunk. He realized that these 3 sword scars were profoundly delicate. What are the sword scars for? Jian Wushuang asked. I just said that there are some requirements for attending the lectures of Palace Master Xianxia, and the requirement is related to the 3 sword scars which were placed here by Palace Master Xianxia. The rules, which were set by Palace Master Xianxia, are that only disciples in the ancient sect who can fully comprehend the first sword scar are qualified to attend his lectures in Sword Tower, said Zhu Lai. And anyone who is able to fully comprehend the second sword scar is qualified to be apprenticed to Palace Master Xianxia as his nominal disciple. If you fully comprehend the third sword scar, you can be his personal disciple. Jian Wushuang's expression turned odd when Zhu Lai said that. As long as I fully comprehend the third sword scar, I can be his personal disciple. Is it difficult? Jian Wushuang asked. It's far more than just difficult. Zhu Lai commented emotionally. I regard myself as being gifted in sword principle. However, it's been more than 10 years since I came to the ancient sect and entered Sword Palace. I've meditated on the 3 sword scars from the very beginning until now, but I've only just now fully comprehended the first sword scar. Isn't it difficult? Also, the first sword scar is the easiest while the second and third are much harder to meditate on. It's said that just the second sword scar is 10 times harder than the first one. Really? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. It's because of its difficulty that there are less than 20 disciples who are qualified to attend his lectures, and there are only 3 nominal disciples who have fully comprehend the second sword scar and become apprenticed to Palace Master Xianxia. They have all stayed at Sword Palace for hundreds of years, comprehending the sword scars and attending the lectures of Palace Master Xianxia. Zhu Lai said, "Even though I've fully comprehended the first sword scar, I don't know how long it will take me to comprehend the second." After hearing that, Jian Wushuang remained silent for a while and then asked, "Since the second sword scar is so difficult, how about the third one?" "It's even more difficult," Zhu Lai said. "Anyone who comprehends the third sword scar can be the personal disciple of Palace Master Xianxia. But, apparently it's not that easy to be his personal disciple with his strength. As far as I know, he still does not have a personal disciple in the ancient sect." Jian Wushuang frowned. In the ancient sect, there were so many disciples, most of who were geniuses of sword principle, but no one among them could meet the requirements set by Palace Master Xianxia and comprehend the three sword scars. This obviously demonstrated how difficult it was to comprehend the three sword scars. Senior brother. Other than Sword Tower, there is one more sword pavilion in Sword Palace, where plenty of sword principle experts have left behind their experiences. Some of the experts even created secret skills related to sword principle. You can go and have a look. Besides, I heard that there is also a sword mountain in Sword Palace, but it's just hearsay as I've never been there," Zhu Lai said. "I see. Thank you so much," Jian Wushuang replied. "You're welcome, senior brother. I'm off now if you don't mind," Zhu Lai said. "Right?" Jian Wushuang nodded. Once Zhu Lai left, Jian Wushuang sat down in front of the dark stone tablet. Various sword principle geniuses have been stuck on these three sword scars from Palace Master Xianxia. Let me see how unique they are. With some expectations, Jian Wushuang began carefully meditating on the three sword scars. Jian Wushuang started by looking over the first of the three sword scars, the one which Zhu Lai had comprehended. Even if the first sword scar was the most common one, Jian Wushuang still felt it was obscure. Jian Wushuang mediated on it carefully after calming himself down. A moment later, he discovered something. "This sword scar." Jian Wushuang continued staring at the sword scar as his expression became increasingly grim. Clearly, it's just a sword scar, but it contains 9 different sword essences. If these 9 sword essences are separated, you'll get 9 different sword movements. It immediately reminded Jian Wushuang of the 9 sword moves that Zhu Lai had performed in front of Vice Palace Master Nye. Zhu Lai had fully comprehended the first sword scar, which meant he had fully grasped the 9 sword movements included in the sword scar and performed them. It was easy to say, but each of the 9 sword movements was so intriguing that people had to spend a very long time exploring them. It is no wonder that Zhu Lai spent dozens of years to comprehend the 9 sword movements. As there are 9 different sword movements, even I would spend a long time if I meditated on them one by one, Jian Wushuang said silently. At this point, Jian Wushuang looked over the second and third sword scar. Jian Wushuang frowned as he gazed at them. The second and third sword scar look exactly the same as the first sword scar. Jian Wushuang's heart sank. The 3 sword scars looked exactly the same, and even the 9 sword movements were all the same. However, Jian Wushuang realized that every one of the 3 sword scars had its occult level. The reason why he couldn't figure it out was that he only saw 3 similar sword scars, but the truth was that his cultivation in sword principle was not extensive enough. Palace Master Xianxia has created a real challenge. There are so many disciples of sword principle in the ancient sect, but it seems true that none of them have been able to fully comprehend the 3 sword scars. I wonder, will I be able to comprehend the 3 sword scars with my talent in sword principle? Jian Wushuang clasped both his hands with a sense of expectation. After scanning the 3 sword scars, Jian Wushuang did not stay here. Instead, he went on a walk around the sword pavilion. In the sword pavilion, he did see a lot of experiences and some secret skills that were left behind by experts of sword principle. However, Jian Wushuang wasn't qualified to directly acquire these experiences and secret skills. If he wanted to meditate on them, he had to send an application to the seniors of the ancient sect. For now, he was nothing more than a disciple, someone who didn't even have the eligibility to send in an application, so he had to be apprenticed to an expert who was able to help him with the application. Palace Master Xianxia was right. All the disciples of the ancient sect become apprenticed to an expert so that they can gain access to more resources. Jian Wushuang pondered and, before long, left the Sword Palace. Back at Enlightenment Mountain, Jian Wushuang found a deserted cave mansion and met Feng and Huaying. In front of them, on the stone table, was a good wine that had been brought by Huaying from his hometown. Currently, the three people were drinking with each other. When I was still in the ancient world, I used to daydream about what the sex in the eternal world would look like. However, I didn't know what the sex really looked like until I came to the ancient sect. The Tao Palace is amazing, said Huaying. It's so amazing to see so many experts gathered there to explore the Tao. Each of the 13 palace masters has an enormously profound understanding of the Tao, and they never hesitate to pass on their experience to others. It's no wonder such a sect can develop such strong disciples, Feng said approvingly. Both of them visited the Tao Palace, where they were shocked by what they saw. There are a good many geniuses in the ancient sect, let alone experts. They all have a profound comprehension of the Tao. Compared to those disciples in the ancient sect, we can only find ourselves at the very bottom of the list. I'm afraid the three of us will lose the qualification to be an inner disciple at the sect competition in 2 years, Huaying said. After they heard that, a wry smile played across Feng's lips while Jian Wushuang gave a shrug. In the ancient sect, only those who have been there for less than 500 years could still be a disciple. But there was still a tremendous number of disciples, even if many of them were outer disciples. However, many outer disciples were more gifted than inner disciples and had an extremely high level of understanding on the Tao. Looking at the outer disciples that were currently in the ancient sect, even the weakest had fully comprehended the first occult, while the slightly stronger disciples had fully comprehended 2 different occults. Gong Chao, who ranked first at Firmament Territory Feast, had only comprehended 2 occults. As for those who stood at the top among the outer disciples, there were more than 10 geniuses that had already grasped 3 different occults. With their current strength, even the strongest one, Jian Wushuang, wouldn't even be ranked in the middle of these outer disciples. Once the sect competition began in 2 years, the weakest inner disciples would be challenged by those outer disciples. If they failed, they would be downgraded to outer disciples and they would no longer be able to stay at Enlightenment Mountain. We didn't have an appropriate condition for cultivation when we were in the ancient world, so we made little progress. Now that we have arrived at the ancient sect, where we will be provided with so many cultivation resources, we can make much better progress than before. Not to mention that we still have 2 years to put up a good fight. Feng gripped both of his hands tightly, with a wild gleam in his eyes as he continued in a low voice. Even though I may be downgraded to an outer disciple 2 years from now, I won't regret it as long as I know I tried. Exactly. Jian Wushuang nodded and said solemnly. Palace Master Xianxia said the first 2 years in the ancient sect would be the best time to make breakthroughs for disciples like us who just joined the ancient sect, especially inner disciples. As long as we try hard, our strength should be able to reach a brand new level, so we still have a little hope for the sect competition in 2 years. Well, let's toast to the 3 of us still being able to drink at Enlightenment Mountain in 2 years. Huaying raised his glass and smiled. Cheers! Both Jian Wushuang and Feng raised their glasses. The 3 of them were selected as candidates to join the ancient sect during the Firmament Territory Feast, and they were all inner disciples, so it was only natural that they stuck together. After drinking a cup of wine, Feng pursed his lips and said, "Since we have just joined the ancient sect, we need to find a suitable expert and become apprenticed to him. Under his personal guidance and with the many cultivation resources of the ancient sect, our strength should grow by leaps and bounds. Earlier today, I went to Tao Palace and found a suitable expert, so I will go visit him tomorrow. I also have a suitable candidate who is a palace master, but I have no idea whether or not he would be willing to accept me. Anyway, I will have a try," Huaying said and smiled. Jian Wushuang, what do you think? Both Feng and Huaying looked at Jian Wushuang. I'm in no hurry. After all, I have not been to the Tao Palace yet, Jian Wushuang said, then smiled briefly. Your talent is so incredible. I suppose those palace masters and vice palace masters would scramble to accept you as their disciple, so you don't really need to visit them personally, Huaying said with a smile. Jian Wushuang couldn't help laughing. While the 3 of them were busy drinking together, Xianyi was sending the information on Jian Wushuang, Feng, Huaing, Bingshan, Xianing, and Wu Huang, as well as their performance at the Firmament Territory Feast, to those palace masters and vice palace masters in the Dao Palace. These palace masters and vice palace masters just scanned it briefly. They appeared unimpressed by the first 5 candidates, but when they saw Jian Wushuang's information, they were all astounded. How can he be so powerful with a cultivation age less than 40 years in a place like the ancient world? Even in the eternal world, it's unbelievable to reach that level in less than 40 years, not to mention that he came from the ancient world. What an exceptional genius! Unfortunately, he is good at sword principle and meditates on the world Dao and the slaughter Dao, which are not my strong points.